Hey y'all, welcome back to Spiritual Crypto, my lo-fi podcast where I talk about things like spirituality, vipassana meditation, ascension of 5D, the rise of the feminine, healing wounded masculine and wounded feminine energies. And I also talk about transcending late stage capitalism through Seeds, the social good project I founded, which is designed to help people build abundance through being generous to others. So, where to start? There's been a lot going on. I just meditated a little bit ago. I went live when I meditated. If you ever want to join those, you totally should. It's been helping a lot. Something about being able to feel that other people are there is helping me to be more accountable, and that's good. The weird thing is that I still feel self-conscious about talking. Let's see if I can relax into this a little bit more. I should also say, like, if this is unfamiliar to you, that my intention is to treat spiritual crypto recordings kind of like impromptu therapy sessions. So sort of like with that degree of candor and lack of formality and stuff. But I'm noticing that, I mean, I'm still a super small channel, but I am starting to get like, what's the word? In very small increments. What is that word? I'm becoming more aware that more people may listen to this later, and it is slightly affecting like the way I'm thinking about these. I used to just record them and just like put them up and not even edit them except for like trimming the beginning and the end a little bit. And now I've started editing them, so it's changing a little bit. I don't think I want it to. I talked a little bit about this before. I don't think it's actually that interesting, but I'm aware of it like at the top. Anyway, though, in these vertical lives that I've been doing just on YouTube, something that I didn't expect is that in almost every, not almost every, but in a surprising number of lives I've done while meditating, there's some guy like saying sexual shit. And so far, only one person was cruel. The others have been saying sexual shit about me that's inappropriate and legit sexual harassment. And I didn't think that would still be happening. I don't know about y'all. And if you're like me and you've unfortunately been sexually assaulted in the past, for me at least, it's like, I don't know, like 9-ish times that I can recall. And I think that's like average, which is a fucking travesty. I used to think that I would age out of it, and I definitely would have thought I would have aged out of it, by which I mean being having shitty guys like trying to take something from me. I would have thought I would have aged out of it by now. And there was a period of time when the sexual assault trauma was less healed than it is now. I've healed a good bit of it, I think, that I wanted to actively be unattractive. Like, I wanted to be considered not conventionally attractive in any way. And I was excited that I was getting older and hoping that like ageism would work in my favor in that way and stuff. And I wanted to be, even like gaining weight was part of it because it was this internalized belief that they won't hurt you if you're fatter. And that was not true. I didn't think this would still be happening, is what I'm trying to say. And especially now when I'm still going through this eating disorder recovery and I'm still like so much heavier than I've ever been in my life. The weight is starting to gradually come off now, though, I'm noticing. The eating disorder part is a lot more healed. There's still some stuff I'm noticing, like I should be eating earlier in the day, like closer to the time I wake up. I'm still not doing that consistently. I'm just drinking coffee. I shouldn't do that. And I'm still slipping into some restriction a little bit of the time. And I notice this is the thing, like, and another reason to have empathy for people, regardless of what their bodies look like, because you don't know what's going on with their health. And in this fat phobic culture, someone could look heavier. What I'm trying to say is, I get more bloated now. My digestive issues start to come back when I don't eat enough. I think I talked about noticing that in an earlier episode of this podcast. So I'll have like GERD symptoms again. I'll get way more bloated if I didn't get enough calories that day, which is kind of it's like a just punishment, I guess, you know, because if we're being taught that we need to restrict to avoid being quote unquote fat, it seems appropriate that that would be the thing that actually makes us look fatter to teach us not to do it or something. There's clearly some unhealthy stuff in what I just said there that I still need to release, but um yeah, And so, like, for those reasons, you know, I'm getting older. I'm fat. I'm like still, I'm for sure still obese right now as I'm recording this in a clinical sense. And fucking weird ass guys will still literally come into lives where I'm meditating silently and say some of the grossest shit you ever heard in your life. And it's just like, I guess it never ends. I guess it never ends. I hope it ends. I mean, I hope the world will change enough and these energies will shift enough. And I do intellectually believe that's going to happen. I think that's a big part of why I'm here, like in this body at this time in history and stuff. I think I'm kind of reminding myself of that as I'm talking. I feel so much more self-conscious in these than I used to. I was thinking about recording this a couple days ago, in part because I had mentioned before I have like this unreleased episode that I actually recorded in December, and I chose not to release it because I thought I was being too hard on my narcissistic family. And, you know, by nature, obviously, making a video by yourself, it's only your side of the story. But then at the same time, I'm confident that some of that is still my own internalized, like, scapegoat kid stuff where I'm thinking that I'm quote unquote bad when I'm not, kind of thing. And I've been going through more of that healing in real time, like healing narcissistic abuse, but it's this whole facet that I didn't understand before. And I don't think I could have understood until my dad died. He died in October of 2021. I actually recorded an episode on the day he died that you can listen to if you feel like it. And it was a relief, is the truth. I realized after the fact that I'd grieved his death and the fact that I never had like a good father well before he died. So I cried very briefly once, like years after the fact, when I thought about his childlike qualities. Like I thought of him as like a boy when he was less kind of corrupted by the stuff that made him not a good person later. Not that I believe in good people or bad people, quote unquote, but that's like in our vernacular, I guess that's a phrase to use to describe somebody who behaved the way that he did. He was such a focal point because he was the malignant narcissist in the family. He's the one that trained everybody to treat me the way that they did. My golden child brother was an extension of his ego. And my enabling mom seemed like a martyr and like a victim. And I remember really feeling like I needed to protect her and all this stuff. Later, after he died of COVID pneumonia. And I found out later that he apparently refused the vax. So that was like totally on brand for his whole thing and felt karmic. And after that, a couple years after, I started to realize like my mom seems to have something narcissistic or something going on too. And I would look up the list of traits of covert narcissists and so forth, but that didn't seem right. And I actually found this video recently on YouTube by Patrick Teehan. I'll link it in the description. I don't think I mentioned it in the podcast I've released. It's really helpful because it talks about how the enabling partners of narcissists, they're your parents, they often have some kind of narcissistic wounding themselves that they just refuse to deal with. And that makes sense. That is what she has. And when I mentioned in like the most recent, I think, podcast that I did, that after I got robbed last year, I reached out to her for help, and they're wealthy. Like they're not super wealthy, but they're wealthy by American standards. She controls all the money now that he's gone. And I asked her for help, and she sent a small amount of money. And I replied, I don't think I made this clear in the earlier podcast. I was still more in the emotions of it than I am now. So I replied again, and I started to realize that, and this I think is a crux of the wounded masculine fucked up thing that is showing up so much so on a macro scale now in American politics even. And I lived it in that family. It's this thing of like a kind of a terrible male person being treated equally to a woman who's doing a good job, basically. Historically, Clinton was one of the most highly qualified candidates ever. So was Harris. She'd worked in every branch of government. The wounded masculine fucked upness is so skewed that it will shit on that to bring to power like this a fascist. a male fascist who's sexually assaulted a bunch of people. And in my family, my brother isn't Trump. I also haven't had contact with him in many years, though, so I don't even know what he's like now. I would assume it's worse because I'm not there doing emotional labor for it anymore. But what I realized, and this was part of the healing, I was grateful that she sent me something, even though it was a small amount and she's fucking rich. And I was in a terrible situation that was not my fault that it happened because a shitty man that I had helped through seeds stole from me. It's just so awful to think about when I go back into it. But I have released a lot of the pain of that by now. It's been whatever, five months or something. But I realized after she sent that small amount of help that, like, I realized it before, but I think I don't even know how to articulate this well. It's like I can feel, and this is something I learned from her, primarily from her, this thing of like when they're being shitty, but you desperately need the limited amount of help that they're offering, receiving the help and then saying the thing that could have jeopardized them giving the help. And that's something I struggle with so much because I say the thing almost all of the time. I don't always say it immediately, but I do have this habit of calling out the things that I see that are messed up. And it feels like now the attack and response is even more like blatantly obvious or something, and like how transparently of this ridiculously fucked up energy. Just today, literally just today, I found this YouTuber who posted this video that had like 3 million views, who's now selling courses about like growing your YouTube channel. But you could sign up for free. You could do like a free trial for this course. So I did that, and I was like starting to work through his course a little bit. Because like I feel like I'm close to being able to make a video that could really go viral. I feel like I do understand the elements, and I'm getting more natural. I said this in a recent video, but I feel like the the biggest factor is me not being still being too like, I don't know. I called myself weird in that video, but it's not quite that. It's like, but the thing is, I think I'm seeing that through the lens of like men who hate women who speak. It's my own internalized misogyny and misophem. And I think it's that, yeah, this is what it is. I forgot this until now. I was thinking about this recently. I think it's that I'm so used to being around people who hate me, frankly, who have real contempt for me, that I go into recording videos assuming that the people watching will have contempt for me. And so that if you're going in that way, you're not necessarily going to be the most lovable version of yourself until you've totally healed not caring about that at all. And so I think that is the thing that I need to heal as a performer generally. And yeah, so there's that, and then I think I need to make my intros better. I'm doing a better job now of shooting the intros like later in a recording session so that I've opened up a little bit more and I'm getting more natural. But it needs to go like 2 steps further, I think, for a video to be able to go viral, like actually get some views. Anyway, so I was like watching this person's course, and when I signed up for the course, he sent me this message and he was like, be sure to roast the course when you're done because I want to make it better and better. And this person was like, he looks pretty young. He's probably early to mid 20s, white kid, American, seems to be straight. I didn't want to stereotype that type of person, even though I saw in some of his videos some shit that looked kind of misogynistic and also questionable. And he was like touting some YouTubers that I hate, actually. I'm working on moving through a lot of this hatred for that wounded masculine energy. It's always when that wounded masculine energy is expressed. And if we want to backtrack that in a spiritual context, I think that goes back to Atlantis. I think that wounded masculine energy that we're dealing with so much more obviously right now is the current iteration of what was in the attackers of the Fall of Atlantis. So I think I hate it. I mean that I hate the energy. I don't hate the people. Is that true? Unless they seem to really embody the energy. Like I'm thinking of this one YouTuber that this person touted in his course, and I do feel hatred for that person, but it's because he's so he's like blanketed in it, I think, in that energy. Yeah, so I think that's why I feel hatred for that, because of Atlantis, the fall of Atlantis. And I know what that energy is like. The past lives that I've been able to recall in this life, and there've been at least 3 dozen or more, they all seem to be showing the same thread. And that thread is this idea of the wounded masculine and the wounded feminine, and what this toxic masculine energy has done to feminine energy in everybody, in people of all genders. And I just tried to make a video explicitly about that recently, like a few days ago. I wish I'd made a better video. I already can see a better way to do it. Excuse me, but I think I should probably keep trying to share that theme, because I don't hear anybody else, I haven't found anyone else talking about that in the way that I've come to understand it. So I hate that energy, and I need to work on releasing that, which I think is like a huge, it's like the task of many, perhaps hundreds of lives. So, it's like not surprising that I still hate it. And it's done a lot of terrible stuff to me. It's done bad stuff to me in this life. It's done real bad stuff to me in past lives too. So it's something, that's accumulated over, I think, millennia. And my path as whatever this like mind body mass is, I think that energy is really trying to come at me. It doesn't even feel like it hates me. It doesn't see me as a person or like a foe exactly, or something. There's some depersonalization. But I guess I'm feeling, when I tune into that, I'm feeling it through some of these white men that I've seen that are especially privileged. The YouTuber I'm thinking of is Alex Hormozy, I think is his name. I'll just say it. He has like zillions of followers and talks about money and says that you should just sell to rich people. So he's just an embodiment of all that stuff that I think is going to fall. And I don't even know that much about him. I've just sensed the energy and then was just like immediately turned off. But anyway, so in this course that I'm taking from this young white male YouTuber, just today, he said he wanted roasted. And I just gave some feedback as I was going through the course. And the feedback was, hey, like, I don't think you should like use Elon Musk as an example of somebody to be touted, because that had been an example that he'd used as like a title for a video or something. And I said, I don't think that savvy, humane, those are the words I use, savvy and humane viewers are gonna want to be a part of your course if they see that. And he kicked me out of the course. And I can just feel the energy of that. His energy is younger and like more ignorant, I guess, more immature. And also it feels like not a soul that's been around a ton of times. And the thing is, I didn't necessarily expect it. And I think that's good. I mean, I wasn't, is it good though? Does it mean I wasn't tuning into something I would catch if I were healthier? What I was just thinking is that I was going into it not like stereotyping him, even though I saw like this is this young, like white male kid or whatever. I mean, he's like in his, like I said, early to mid 20s, who is talking about growth on YouTube and stuff. I just thought maybe it was like unawareness that made some of the stuff he said a little like I was trying to assume goodwill, I guess. I'm tuning in again to see if that feels like no, I think that's like the purer part of me, the like more innocent part. So maybe there is a more sophisticated, healed part that will catch that sooner. Because I didn't expect that. That I would give feedback that totally wasn't even roasting his shit, even though that's fucking scary ass fascist posturing that he was listing as an example of something to emulate. And then I got this idea because he's trying to sell like one-on-one coaching and stuff. So then I booked a one-on-one session with him. And I don't know what this impulse is exactly, because I want to go into it and record it. I'm in Oregon and I can record him legally without him having to agree. And I want to ask him like, why did you do that? And then maybe make a video about it. It's a little like my FBI video where I recorded the cop who was so fucking awful after I got robbed. I clearly have contempt for that person. That's the thing I guess I'm still struggling with, that I don't understand, and it's showing up with my mom. So I'll come back to that thread. It's like I feel I know that energy is trying to come at me harder now. It seems more transparently as though it's trying to do so. I think it is because it's trying to, it is like depersonalized. It doesn't, feels like it sees me as a whole human and certainly doesn't value me as a whole human. But I think it does sense that what I'm doing through seeds and like the messages I'm trying to share is about transcending it so that it fucking goes away forever. Like the reason I'm alive at this time in this body with this awareness of the past lives that I've had so far is about transcending that wounded masculine energy so that it's obsolete and it fucking leaves Earth, so that it stops like damaging so many people. Even now, I feel it like it's hard to say those words because of whatever degree I've internalized it in its efforts to get me to not talk. And I intellectually and spiritually, when I tune into it, I'm certain that that's all real. And it's wanted to isolate me and have me be alone and think that nobody fucking cares about what I have to say. That's being shown through the YouTube algorithm largely now. But it feels like this weight, like as soon as that weight is lifted, I'm going to shoot up. And I don't mean Rachel. I mean like what I'm trying to share, what Seeds is doing, it'll just like be able to soar. But the thing is, it's felt like that for, it really feels like that now more so. Like it's getting even more compressed, like it's a spring. But it has felt that way for a while. I didn't think it would go on this long, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I guess I've expressed that sentiment before. And with my mother, so as I was saying before, she sent that small gift. And what I'm healing, the equivalence is what I was talking about. And I was comparing it on a macro scale to like Trump and the female presidential candidates he beat, kind of. Did he even beat them? Clinton had more votes. That showed up in my family, I think. And this is what this whole part of this theft and the stuff I'm supposed to release because of this theft, I think we're trying to make me heal. I think I have some grief coming up, and that's why I want to rub my eyes. Is that I realized like I was grateful for a gift. I really was. Even though it was small and she's fucking rich. And I'm her child. And the circumstances had to do with, like what are circumstances in which a person should not be helped more than in a situation where they were robbed while they were trying to help people in need. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean to like create a false hierarchy or something, but you know? And I realized that she was unwilling to provide, like, the false equivalence wasn't even equivalent because it was like after my brother was drunk driving and hit a family and hurt the mom and a little kid, and he's so lucky he didn't kill anybody. She especially, but both of my parents helped him so fucking much, including financially, to the extent that, as I understand now, he still lives with her and doesn't work and has lived with her for a long time, like years, and he's 38 years old now. And I mean, I don't believe in jobs per se. I think jobs are going away. But that's an unhealthy situation that is about wounded feminine propping up wounded masculine. And it sounds like he's gotten worse. From what I've heard from mutual friends, he now acts as though it's the mother's fault that he had to have all of these legal penalties, rightfully so. So it's like he backpedaled on whatever remorse he was feeling before. And I realized that she had helped him so much more after he could have killed a family. She helped him so much more than she helped me after I was robbed doing the work that I do to try and help people in need. But I don't try. I have helped people in need through Seeds. Seeds has helped people in need in 29 countries now. And that's a fucking false equivalence that I need to start standing up to. So that's what it was. She sent a small gift. I replied in an email, but I waited till I received the gift. It's like I knew that she would do some shit if I said something before then, and I felt that I really needed that money. And that's the thing about it. I was starting to touch on this earlier. that doesn't feel right. I mean, it's coming certainly from a scarcity frame of mind, but it also feels like I'm catering to this shitty wounded masculine energy because it still controls too much money. And that's something that Seeds is working to transcend. And I feel guilty or something about that. And I also very rarely do that. Like, I almost never do that. But then I was thinking, like, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, when I was building my tiny house, I had a horrible experience with the carpenter that I hired, the local carpenter I hired to help me. And it was totally out of the blue. And it seemed to have to do with cryptocurrency. When he found out that I worked in cryptocurrency, he no longer trusted me. And that was kind of the earliest signs of the energies that were coming up through cryptocurrency in that cycle, I guess. And I totally didn't see that coming. And if he'd shown any real interest in me or my work, I think I even told him, I'm sure I did, about how it was being used for good. And Seeds is about especially helping women. Anyway, this guy started being shady. He started leaving early and showing up later than he said he would. And so I let him go. As soon as I did that, he reported me to the town, even though I'd gotten permission in writing to build the tiny house from the building commissioner. But the truth is, I knew that they probably would give me some trouble. I mean, the tiny house that I built from a kit was designed to be less than 200 square feet because you don't need to get a permit if it's less than 200 square feet. So, like, that was intentionally the design of this kit. And that would have been fine, I think. Like, they wouldn't have hassled me at all if there were a house already on the property, which is also fucked up. Anyway, so this guy did this purely, it was in retaliation for firing him. And he did other weird stuff, like he pressured me to write him a check and pay at a certain time. And I told him that the funds wouldn't clear by that time and I would agree to write the check, but he would have to then agree not to cash it until I confirmed that the funds had moved to that account. So much of my money was in cryptocurrency that I would have had to move it into a bank account and did. And he refused to accept payment in crypto and he just didn't listen. I even followed up with him a couple days later to say, like, hey, I checked in with the bank and the deposit still hasn't hit. And he cashed the check anyway the next day, knowing that it wouldn't go through. It was just weird wounded masculine energy shit. But anyway, I'm sharing this because then it meant that the roof didn't get on the tiny house for like way too long. It was like 6 months. I was living in it. And we didn't have a proper roof on it, just had like a tarp over it. It's in Massachusetts, so it gets cold in the winter. And we were coming up on like the end of October. I had to get a roof on somehow. And so I started just trying to build it myself. I actually have a video you can watch if you feel like it on my YouTube channel where I show some of me trying to put this roof on myself, even though I had like no idea what I was doing. I made some progress. And then I found another local carpenter who said he'd help me. And he'd actually built multiple tiny houses of his own in the past. So he was more experienced and like knew what he was doing. And I worked with him. Like I wanted to work with the carpenters when they were there. Like for multiple people, but mostly for that guy that retaliated when I fired him. It would be me working with one other person because I wanted to learn and I wanted to like stuff like that is the kind of stuff I'm the worst at, I think. Yeah, I just wanted to learn. And it seemed fun and I don't know. It was interesting to do it. And it gave me a lot more confidence in this area that I like knew nothing about. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that when I got this final guy who did ultimately help me put the roof on, there were other issues to start. And I didn't say anything at first because like him showing up later than he said he would, stuff like that. Stuff that I don't think that you should have to tolerate in a working relationship when you're paying somebody, certainly. I didn't say anything to that particular carpenter because I desperately needed help getting the roof on within a matter of days. And I felt guilty about that. Like I was caving into wounded masculine energies. Because the other aspect of this, when it's happened with men that I have hired, is that there was always some element of misogyny, being dismissed, not being taken seriously, not being respected. And it has repercussions that extend far beyond my experience as a woman. Like, I know that. So I felt guilty, and I felt like I was compromising myself and not being brave or something, because I sense that if I set these boundaries, if I said something, this dude would also do something shitty and I would be left without a literal roof over my head, you know? But there's something in that I still don't understand, that I need to heal. Hopefully, I'll just meditate more and it'll sort itself out. That seems to be how these things generally work. You heal the thing, you release the thing that's making you run into the negativity in the external. But he shifted, and at the end, we got the roof on. It was fun. I enjoyed working with him, and he really was a great worker ultimately. He became a great collaborator. He did a lot of stuff. He charged a really affordable price. And at the end, I even trusted him enough to take care of some extra stuff, like after I'd already come out west to Portland, because as soon as the roof on the house was on, I came to Portland, Oregon. I drove across the country because I didn't have enough of a setup there to make it through a Massachusetts winter without having to do a lot of work to stay warm and risk carbon monoxide. I didn't have it. I had a little propane heater. It could have been done, but I was also sick. Like, my health wasn't good and I didn't know what was happening yet. And I think coming out here and actually being in this house where I'm supported, at least in the sense that there's running water and heat and stuff that's like accessible in a modern fashion, that's how I was able to find out that it was stuff got messed up in my body because of eating disorder things, and it's giving me a chance to recover. And I am getting better. My energy's still messed up, but it's better. And this body is starting to get balanced. Like, I started talking about this earlier, but what's cool, as I said earlier, the eating disorder behaviors aren't entirely released and healed. And my body reacts to that in uncomfortable ways whenever I'm not eating enough. But I am never overeating. Not even by bites, really. For a while, I was off food several months into this process, and I started mid-April of last year. So at the beginning, you're like eating a lot because you have to listen to every cue your body's giving you to eat, because you need to eat more because you've been restricting for so long that your body doesn't trust you, and that's why stuff is messed up. But then there was this period where I was off food, and I'm kind of still that way, and I have to be careful not to let it turn into restriction, because I'm kind of resenting that humans have to eat. I get that that's the beauty of the design of coming in and having a human life or an animal life, but animals can't meditate. The Buddhist texts, I don't know where, but I guess it says that the Buddhas, because there are Buddhas periodically throughout history, the Gautama is just like supposed to be the most recent Buddha that we've had on Earth. And there'll be another one coming in the future, and people will forget about vipassana in the meantime. And that's the idea. There are these cycles, Buddhist sasanas. Buddhas like to have human lives to reach liberation. And my understanding is that it's because we have like built-in craving and aversion here, because human bodies need food. We have to eat, and there's craving. There can easily be craving associated with that. And we have pain, physical pain, emotional pain. So it's easy to have aversion to that. 31 planes of existence, and there's a 10,000 world system. And apparently Buddha is like to be human on Earth, I think, even specifically. So I get that that design is helpful for your spiritual progress. But yeah, lately I've just been feeling this thing of like, I'm tired of having to get food all the fucking time. Like, even in, I'm so fortunate in terms of recorded human history, because I can literally just use the device and have food show up at my door. I don't even have to cook it a lot of the time, although I do cook. When I was sicker and had even worse energy, I was getting deliveries more, and had to tell myself that that was okay and it was a way to take care of myself and stuff. But yeah, just that thing of like, we have to continually consume food or we die. Anyway, so with the guy I worked with, I feel like there is some lesson in there. The carpenter I worked with, something larger about encountering people who have a lot of wounded masculine in them. It's almost like whenever it's because I'm angry, I guess, or something. I wasn't angry exactly with, like, when that guy was late, I wasn't angry exactly. It's like this thing of, I think I have to set the boundary, and I think I have to do it to help other people and protect other people too. And I think that is true. It's important to do that. There are these ripple effects for stuff that we do, for sure. But then it's like something solidifies, and then there isn't that shift into just being a great collaborator. It's like less likely to happen. And I don't think that's the case, with somebody, when you're with really great developed people who are caring and care about you, that's not a problem. You can have open conversations, and that's what healthy relationships are. Not that I have almost any experience with healthy relationships, frankly. But yeah, there's some lesson in that. Maybe that's the last thing, one of the last things at least. It might be the last thing to shift, because that's the other thing with like this weight of wounded masculine energy that I feel like is attacking me more obviously now. And also in kind of funny ways. Like, it's ridiculous that that person kicked me out of his course because he told me he loves Elon Musk. Oh my God. Like, that's just, in a certain sense, it's hilarious. It's also real fucked up. But it feels like if I can get away from any sort of care about that, then I'll more naturally align with the people who don't have that in them in any way. And those are going to be the people that help seeds soar and help with creative projects that I hope to make, film I want to make, and so forth. It's showing up also in further interaction with my mother, and I don't understand that either. So yeah, I guess I'll wrap up with this. I hope that it helps to share this, because I found at least, like a lot of content on YouTube about narcissistic abuse and navigating that with your parents. But it wasn't until just very recently, in the last like month and a half, that I found that Patrick Teehan video that I mentioned, where he said your parent who isn't the narcissist but partnered with your narcissistic parent tends to have this narcissistic wounding. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what my mom has. That seems like a more, I don't know, like advanced learning or something. So I hope to share that. Like I said, I'll link the video in the description, his video. But then also, there's this whole thing, I think, for a lot of us who grew up in narcissistic households where we were the scapegoat kids, where the narcissistic abuser is such a focal point that we don't even really understand or see the contributions of the quote unquote safer parent to the dysfunction in the system. And for me, I couldn't see that until he literally died, right? Now that I'm able to see her behavior with more clarity and more honesty, because I totally, for years, I thought she was just this victim martyr, childlike person that I needed to protect. And she was really being a neglectful and abusive parent to me herself. It was just slightly better than how my dad was. So that's all I knew. And I want y'all who are moving through this to maybe be aware of this sooner than I was, because it might help. You also might not be able to hear it though when you're earlier in that healing process. On Reddit recently, somebody said something about their mother and their abusive father, and I commented something like this, about how my mom chose to stay with my dad even though he treated her terribly and treated me terribly. She chose to stay with him, and she was an adult, and she knew what was going on because I fucking told her and gave her like a stack of evidence that was this tall. And she had fucking pictures and all the shit. I'm talking about when he serially cheated on her. But I mean, she also saw the way he treated me in the fucking house and stuff. And she chose to stay. And she chose to shun me for speaking up. And she chose to act like I was the bad person in the situation and stuff. And I said something like that to this person on Reddit. And I got downvoted to hell. And I think it was because people want to, I think this happens more for mothers. They want to continue believing that their mother was a victim, but she was an adult who chose to stay in that situation when she had the power to leave it or change it in other ways. And she didn't do that. And now, so after my mother didn't respond to the follow-up email I sent her asking for help, asking for like, I think I phrased it, I haven't looked at the message, and it's been a little while since I sent it to her. But I was just like, please send help for me, monetary help that is in line with what somebody who got robbed of a huge amount of money when they were helping people in need would deserve. you're fucking rich. I didn't say that way though. But I said like that, like, because that was my circumstance, getting robbed after helping somebody in need. And I pointed out that she had helped my brother so much, including monetarily, for many years after he hit this family drunk driving. And just, he was, I mean, he's the golden child. So there was a bunch of other things in there too that showed favoritism to extreme degrees that were also very bad for him. And now he can't apparently function in like society. And she didn't reply. And it was devastating. And I went through grief and like immobilization. When these, it's her. I think that wounding with her is so much deeper. Like with my dad, it was just much more obvious. But it's that abandonment. I mean, when I was listening back to the recent podcast episode I did where I was talking more about narcissistic abuse, I felt sad for myself. That's some sad stuff that I was talking about. And I was angry in the recording, but I want to honor myself and my experience and this experience for everyone else who's had it. That when your mother abandons you in various ways, it is deeply, deeply devastating. I think it leaves a hole in your development in terms of your sense of self and of your own value. And if you don't have another adult in your life who consistently mirrors you in a healthy way so that you do understand how wonderful and worthy and valuable and lovable and everything that you are, is like, because you exist, because you are here as a human, then you get real fucked up. And so I'm proud of myself for not being way more fucked up than I ended up being. Like, thank God I found vipassana, but also I found it because, and I totally believe this, I found it because I'd done the work in past lives and enough work in this life to find it. The whole idea there, if it's unfamiliar, is that we have these things called paramis. There are 10 paramis. And what I've been taught is that they're like buckets or something, and you put drops in the bucket. And when you've reached a certain level, then you can find vipassana. And there's so many stories that I've heard from like meditators that I've met at courses and stuff who they just heard the word one day and they were like, oh, that's for me. And then they go and do it. And other people aren't there. So like it doesn't connect in that way. But that's totally how it was for me. I heard the word and I was like, I need to go. And I think it's because my paramis had just reached a certain level. Paramis are things like generosity, compassion, tolerance, strong determination is another one. Equanimity is one. Sheila, morality. I don't know if I can name all 10. They're good qualities, you know, sort of like things that all organized religions teach us that we should develop for the most part. Equanimity, I think, isn't one that I've heard touted in other religions. And Buddhism isn't a religion, blah, whatever. I don't consider myself to be Buddhist. I just do Vipassana and my life has gotten a lot better, is where I'm at. Sorry, OBS quit. If anyone knows a better alternative, please let me know. So to finish that thought, after my mom didn't reply to that email asking for help that seemed fair, given the circumstances with my brother, I waited 9 days and she hadn't replied. So I sent another email and let her know how much it hurt me that she didn't even bother to reply. And then I went through days of, it was like great emotional pain. I remember just standing over there in the kitchen and just thinking like, wow, this emotional pain is really bad. It's the worst that I remember feeling in a long time. And some of it, I think, maybe was, you know, stuff coming up from when I was a baby that interacting with her again just triggered, and, you know, feeling that neglect again and remembering neglect from before. Because I really don't have happy memories generally from childhood, unfortunately. And I don't really have memories of her doing the things that, you know, like, frankly, like good moms do for their kids. I mean, she did the things that made it look from the outside like she was playing that role, but that wasn't my experience, particularly emotionally and to an extent physically too, because there was some physical neglect as well. And after that, great emotional pain came up for a few days, and it kind of incapacitated me. I didn't really feel like I could do much of anything. And I meditated less than I normally do, which is always a sign that something like really gnarly is coming up if I'm no longer meditating. Because when you meditate, you're releasing a thing, and by definition, you're sitting with it. And so, in those really overwhelming instances of pain, meditation can feel more challenging. And then more of it cleared, and a lot of anger cleared as well, which was amazing. And then I just felt a lot better. I felt free. I felt like, oh, I'm never going to have any form of contact with her again. Even though I'd been like virtually no contact or very low contact with her for whatever, 5 years or something, she did still email me occasionally. And I obviously emailed her after that theft. And then just recently, someone I think of as a friend, and she listens to this sometimes. So if you're hearing this and you know I'm talking about you, please, please still do what you said you were going to do. But this person reached out and sent an email literally with subject heading, I want to help. And she said she had this amount of ether, and she said she only had it because of me. She said she wanted to send it to me personally rather than through seeds. So I had to explain like why it's better for everybody, for literally everybody involved if it goes through seeds, because she receives the seeds in thanks. More seeds are distributed. That idea of building a bigger pie for all can happen. And so she said she'd do it. And then we didn't hear from her. And in that initial email, she said she'd meant to send it in December, but looked and it was in her drafts and she hadn't sent it. And when she did send it, it was really nice to hear. And I'd been meditating more that day, and I told her that. And I said something about how I felt like energies had been messing with me. And I wondered if those energies kept her from sending the email sooner. So it just wasn't a surprise that the message did come through on a day when I've been meditating more. And then we didn't hear from her, and a teammate followed up, and she said she'd send it that day. She said she'd sat down a couple times and tried to send it and then was worried about messing it up and didn't, which also made me like not worried exactly, but she's taken our course before. And I just hear too many stories from people. I know it's people that didn't necessarily stay on top of everything in the course, but it does worry me if somebody's taken the course, didn't do enough of the exercises to feel comfortable just sending cryptocurrency. She said she sent it that day, and then we haven't heard from her since, and it wasn't sent. And it was felt pretty devastating. And I feel that I know what it is. It's this wounded masculine interaction with the wounded feminine. I'm seeing it in multiple women who I think are more spiritual, who are more collapsed, and it's hurting me when I've had to interact with them in that energy. And I hope it shifts, and I hope she still sends the gift. Please send the gift because it's needed. And I feel angry at the women who are in this energy, and I think I'm supposed to start saying something to them about it. Because if it's these women who are more aware, have more abilities, are not supporting stuff that is about healing the feminine, as Seeds is, and as I am, I'm like hesitant to like mention myself, this shit's gonna go on so much longer than it has to. We're gonna be stuck in this fucking mire of shit for much longer than is necessary. And I'm also alone. I've felt very alone in this pursuit, and standing up for this and trying to do these things to shift this energy, to give us this alternative to late stage capitalism through Seeds. And I need other women in particular who understand these things to stand with me. And so I want to ask you to do that. Please stand with me through this. Whatever that means energetically. I mean, it doesn't have to mean money or anything like that, but I need that energetic support. I can keep going. I know I can go by myself for a long ass time. I think that's something like in my energy signature that I like chose coming into this body with this astrological makeup and stuff. I have Mars at 28 of Scorpio, for anyone who knows what that means. tends to mean you can just keep going and there's a tenacity. And I do have that, but it's a lot harder. And it really has a negative impact on me when stuff like that happens. And so I was emotionally devastated by that for several days. And then on top of that, my mom's lawyer got in touch with me. So she's not trying to reach out directly. She's communicating through a lawyer, like all good mothers do with their children. Sorry for the snark, but like, and she said that she wanted to buy land that I co-own. And I think there was good intention there. I think there was this thought that she would offer to buy this because she knows that she's not helping me otherwise. She did send that small gift before, but she's not willing to help, but she'll do this thing that means she buys real estate from me. And she had already had an appraisal done and was offering an amount that was at the high end of that appraisal. And if this transaction went through at that price, it would be enough for me to live on for 3 months. So that's something. I mean, I don't ever mean to sound ungrateful. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't own property. Women only own like 1% of the world's property or something, even today. So that's fortunate. But I also think for women, especially, and for anyone coming out of wounded feminine energy, that we got to like stand in the whole of our worth. And I recognize this for what it was. Even if there was some good intention there, it's still a fucking thing where she just poured all of these resources into my brother after he did something awful. And she was unwilling to help me to anywhere near that extent when a man did something awful to me while I was doing work to help people in need. And that's fucked up and it's not equivalent and it's not okay. So once the lawyer got in touch with me and all of this, then it was just like, it was interesting at first because I did feel like it manifested because I was meditating more and because I cleared out a layer of that anger, because I felt free of her, because I didn't have to interact with her anymore after she abandoned me for the nth time. But then more layers came up as that interaction with the fucking lawyer took place. And I remember I was just sitting on the couch like recently and I felt the new layer of anger surface. So it's like with vipassana, you like peel off layers of negativities. So it was like a deeper layer I could feel coming on the surface. And then I felt more of the just like, I don't want to be on earth. There's no place for me here. Nothing here can see me or recognize what I'm offering. It's just a fucking slog all the time. Like, no reprieve. So those thoughts came in my mind again. And then on top of that, so it was like wounded feminine because my friend who said she was going to send a gift just ghosted us. And as I'm recording this, I have enough money for about maybe 3 weeks. I have a little bit of money coming in, but yeah, about 3 weeks of runway or whatever before I don't have any money to pay bills. But I'm working on various things constantly to try and bring more money in. So like, I'll be okay. She's going to have karma to clear if she doesn't do that. And I hope she comes through. I want to believe that she will come through. So then this interaction with the lawyer and stuff, it shifted things too, because it was that thing at first where I'm like, wow, that's so generous of her. That's so nice of her to offer. But I used to do that all the time where like, it's not crumbs, but it kind of is compared to what she's done for terrible men in her life, including my father and my brother. Not my brother, I don't think is terrible, but I also don't know him anymore. But he was getting worse, and there's a lot of selfishness and just a lot of wounded masculine bullshit. What I'm shifting through with this, I think, is to no longer be like, oh, thank you so much, like blah blah blah, like going like this or something. Like if you can't see me, I'm like bowing, pretending to bow because somebody did something that's kind of bare minimum-ish. There was generosity there in her offering the limit of whatever this appraisal was that she got, like the highest end. But then I started looking into it more. It was weird because there was one comp from the appraiser, and the appraisal that they shared was just typed on a piece of paper that was like 3/4 of the paper. So I started to dig in and I started talking to the appraiser, and I found out that there were comps that suggested a much higher value, significantly higher value. and started looking into other local appraisers. I made a counter offer. And then the lawyer sent this message that was so weird and fucking unprofessional and also dumb. And it weirds me out. Like, I don't even know how to say this. I know I'm smart, quote unquote. I know, like, objectively that I worked with a gifted adult doctor who specialized in work with gifted adults. And he said I was a gifted adult at the highest level, and that's 800 or 8,000 people on earth. That's what this person told me. I know that. But sometimes I'm still so surprised that, I mean, this guy's supposed to be a professional. He's a lawyer charging my mother certainly hundreds of dollars an hour, a small town lawyer. It was just weird that he was so dumb. I feel like that sounds too shitty to say, like, or too callous or too mean. But he was condescending as shit in this email. What he said didn't make logical sense. And it was just, I couldn't even address all the points because I could just feel that he was coming from this place where he couldn't really be reasoned with in the way that you can reason with a smart professional. So I guess I should, in good conscience, like separately tell her that she should find another lawyer. Not that I think that she would necessarily listen to that. She also does this thing where she'll just get somebody and just stays with a thing forever because it's familiar, which I don't respect at all. Because it's fear-based, I guess. It had such a negative effect on me. That's why I don't respect it. And because I haven't healed that. I haven't forgiven it totally. Yeah, but basically he was just like, she says no. She's unwilling to counter. She's unwilling to negotiate at all. Her initial offer is all she's going to do. And the thing, I mean, this is based on a single appraisal that she apparently ordered. I don't even know if it's a certified appraisal. It had a single comp, which is weird. Also, they were saying things will stay as they are if you don't accept this offer. But I can choose to sell that land at any time I want legally. I can do so as a co-owner of the land. So that's just fucked that they would even say that he would even say this, the lawyer. Anyway, so I've just gone through, like, I wrote a really angry response yesterday, left it in drafts to get up today and meditate more and see what I thought about sending it, and I didn't send it. I wrote a slightly less angry response that was more measured today. I still haven't sent it. He followed up with me again today. I do think it is these energies of higher good trying to take care of me. They're coming through these convoluted, like, lanes because that's what's available on Earth right now. And because I haven't connected with that higher energy coming through people yet. The danger is that I don't trust that there are people that have it flowing through them freely because I haven't really found anybody like that so far. I know a lot of us have to be here. I think a lot of us that were there at the Fall of Atlantis reincarnated as humans now because this is like the time that that energy from the attackers is going to be integrated and released. And the lesson from those thousands of years, we're taking it in. We now understand how to deal with that wounded masculine, toxic masculine energy. That was the point. And so we're back now because we're the ones who can really integrate it because we were there when the fall happened. But even somebody that I met who literally told me that she remembered me from there, I made a whole video about it if you feel like watching it on YouTube. She had this coursing through her and she attacked at one point when I pointed out that she said she was going to do something that she didn't do. Maybe my language was harsher. I don't think it was harsh though. I mean, this was like 5 years ago, so I think I was more obtuse in my communication. I think I've gotten a little bit better about that, but it's that wounded masculine, fucking wounded feminine energy shit that comes at me. I guess the thing I'm most worried about now is that I trust that the energies of the highest good are caring for me and will care for me. And that's about the only thing I trust because I haven't seen much of that energy coming through humans that I've met in real life so far. And I feel like I'm kind of old to have never seen that. As much as I've traveled and as many people as I've interacted with, it makes me worry that it isn't on Earth as much as I at all. Like it's in bits. And when I've talked about this with Taya Anderson, just like this really talented, energetic, past life therapist coach that I've worked with, she said that she gets this message about I'm supposed to be some kind of beacon, but it's not working so far. I'm trying, but I can't get anything through really like on YouTube. Wasn't working on TikTok anymore. What are other methods available in modern quote unquote times with this remedial ass technology that we have. So I don't know, y'all. I know that things can change really rapidly. I've experienced that in the past in my life. Could change tomorrow for all I know. Who the hell knows, right? So all I have control over is continuing to meditate, knowing that more of these negativities will release. So I'm not angry, I'm not bitter. I don't feel hatred for anyone anymore, although I know that that's at a high level that happens. When you no longer have ill will, you're like almost fully liberated when you reach that stage. I'll just keep trying to share the message in different ways. I'm going to start trying to post videos on YouTube twice a week at least. So we'll see. We'll see. And keep trying whatever I'm doing, to try and bring in some money with various pursuits. I guess I won't update on that now. It's probably not even that interesting. But yeah, just like the stuff I made a video about before, pursuing insurance and lawsuits and all this other nonsense that I feel like I've been kind of forced into. And an astrologer actually told me that recently, that my energy signature kind of forces me into the fight, quote unquote, when I don't want to be there. That totally jives. I don't like confrontation. Some people feed off of it or something. It drains me, but it does feel like I get pushed into situations where I have to say something. Maybe it's trying to get me to say it quicker because I often don't say it immediately, and I should, I think. I mean, it shouldn't be. It's because I've still got all this baggage coming in, like thinking I'm going to get attacked in response. So that's why I don't say it immediately. So that's a whole thing to heal. So yeah, I'll just continue with what I have control over and just keep waiting for this world to change more, I guess. Because I'm fucking trying to change it, man. And I really don't know what else I can do. I don't know what else I can do. You know, I've been trying for a long time. I'm continuing to try. It feels like something else has to meet me, I think. The world has to shift in some certain way, or something else in me has to shift to find a different wavelength in the world. That's probably more accurate. Thanks for listening. If you want to help someone in need through seeds and get seeds, cryptocurrency, and thanks, you can do that at seedsgives.com. Be linked in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube so that I can try and start reaching more like-minded folks. If you've sent, good wishes, goodwill, support in any form to seeds or to me, I really, really appreciate that very much. And I think things are going to get better for us soon. Sooner or later, they will. Anicca, nothing is permanent. Just it seems like some shit takes a real long time, you know? Okay. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.